Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory podcast here with Tad and Will, bringing you extensive, inclusive, all intensive coverage of the 32 teams in the league. That is the National Football League. Thursday night football. It was between the Lions and the Packers, a very hyped up Thursday night football matchup. The Lions 11-1, the Packers were 9-3 going into this, so the Packers were really trying to go on the road and do what they could to get, possibly a win against their divisional rivals. And while they did fail to do so, they did put up a pretty good fight. Detroit owned the first quarter. The Packers did end up, trying to make a fighting comeback into the they did into the second quarter. Jared Goff, right before the half, did throw a pretty solid touchdown there that gave them the lead. Jared Goff, to me, really looked confident, composed, and poised throughout this football game. Jordan Love, though, coming right out of the halftime, went down the field very quickly and scored the drive that, made it 14-17 and threw it to Tucker Kraft. And yeah, Tad, where would you rank Tucker Kraft amongst tight ends?
I mean, I think Tucker Kraft is a fairly mid-tier tight end, maybe slightly above average. But, I mean, he's made some plays. He obviously got that big touchdown, so that's a big play there. And, I mean, he's been fairly reliable.
Yeah. And, I mean, to be honest, Tad, I was super impressed with the resiliency of the Green Bay Packers, but I mean, this effort and this comeback, really the go-ahead touchdown, Tad, scored by Tim Patrick. Yeah, 6 catches, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. I must say, as a former Broncos fan, I'm not a former Broncos fan. I'm a current Broncos fan. What I meant by that was the fact that Tim Patrick used to play for my team, the Broncos, and he goes out here, with everything that he went through and, with his injuries that he overcame, missing 2 whole seasons where he tore his ACL and then got the knee injury. So he missed an entire 2 years and got cut by the Broncos in the preseason. The Lions pick him up, and he scores 2 touchdowns under the Thursday Night Lights. I guess, what's your take on those sentiments?
I mean, it's obviously great to see a player make the recovery that he has, come out and be able to have an impact for a winning football team. He was with Denver when times were low, and now, obviously Denver turned it around without Tim Patrick, and now Tim Patrick has a chance to play for a winning football team in his own right. So, I mean, it's just seems like a win-win situation there, for both sides. And Tim Patrick's now, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's a stacked offense, so he's not going to get the touches every game. I mean, you got to feed your guys, St. Brown, Williams, Laporta, but Tim Patrick proved today that in that football game, he proved that when called upon, he can make plays. I mean, he's a playmaker. He's scored the touchdowns, just become a reliable target. And the more of those you have, the better. I mean, it's in the NFL, you got to have as many guys as you can that you can rely on. And Tim Patrick can be a player like that.
Josh Jacobs, Dad, for Green Bay, did rush for 3 touchdowns, 18 carries, 66 yards. I probably would, my personal ranking of Josh Jacobs would, he's rushing for over 1,000 yards this season, 239, 1,503, 1,053 yards, 11 touchdowns. Those rankings, the carries 4th, yards 3rd, touchdowns 11. I mean, really one of the quietly really good running backs in the league. Yeah. I personally would rank him in the top 5. I mean, definitely behind Saquon and Derek.
For sure.
But he might be right there at 3 or 4.
I mean, I'd probably say that guys like Gibbs and Montgomery would be up there too. I mean, on the other sideline, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, Josh Jacobs, he's definitely up there, and I mean, he's the one carrying the Green Bay offense, and he's done it for most of the year, like you were describing. I mean, that you don't have to do a whole lot in the quarterback position. I mean, it was a relatively quiet game statistically for Love, and I mean, especially in the first half, he struggled in the first half, did better in the second half, but with that being said, I mean, Josh Jacobs is the focal point of this offense, and he's done great at what he does.
To me, Josh Jacobs is the best offensive player on the team.
It's probably fair to say, yeah.
I mean, statistically on the season, Jordan Love, yes, the starting quarterback, but to me, Jordan Love, to be honest with you, is. I mean, let's look at Jordan Love. 2,724 yards, that ranks 19th. 21 touchdowns, that ranks 7th. 11 INTs, tied for 87th, so that's fairly low, which is good. 64.2 in quarterback rating, which is 11th. So, I mean, I would say he's middle of the pack, but like slightly above, like he's top half, but lower top half
Sure.
amongst starters. Like
And I'd
I
say
would
at this
say, like
point, they're paying him to be better than that.
somewhere in the 10 to 16 range, maybe even 13 to 16.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, and the injuries had an impact on him some this year. That's probably fair to say. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, the Packers, I'd imagine they were expecting maybe a little bit more out of him.
Right. So, yeah, Christian Watson too. Yeah, 4 catches, 114 yards. It was a good listen, Tad. It was a great effort and a resiliency and a fight that the Green Bay Packers came up against. However, they ran into what is in fact the most well-rounded, experienced, best team in the National Football League, the Detroit Lions. They're the best team. They're the ranked. I mean, my personal ranking is Detroit's #1. And Tad, isn't it just crazy? Like growing up,
Yeah.
I mean, all of our since we were kids. I mean, we've only ever known the Detroit Lions to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. But no,
The
Tad,
laughing stock of the league.
here in the year 2024, I say it here live on the air, the Detroit Lions are in fact the current best team in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so. They deserve it.
Yeah. They've been very solid. I mean, they've been an incredible football team, and they're coached very well. Dan Campbell's probably should be the coach of the year. You can make a case for that. Their offense does good. Their defense does good. Jake Bates, their field goal kicker, he doesn't get enough credit for what he does. He kicks another game-winning field goal here in this game. He's got, I want to say, like at least 3 that I can think of right off the top of my head that he's kicked the game-winning field goal, and he's just been incredible this year. The former UFL kicker for the Michigan Panthers, and now he, on the same side, he goes into the NFL, and he's just come out here. He's been incredible. 21 of 22 along of 58, 48 for 49 PATs. He's in his first year in the NFL, he's established himself as a very reliable field goal kicker.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely very reliable, very serviceable. But I do want to talk about Jared Goff because he is the former first round pick. Like, let's not forget the former #1 pick in 2016 out of Cal, who was originally drafted by the Rams. Okay, but now here he is. He's definitely a veteran for sure. 3,265 yards, that ranks 8th. 25 touchdowns, that ranks 5th. 10 interceptions, tied for 84, so very good and low. QBR, though, 63.6, that ranks 12th. I would definitely say he's a top 10 starter, maybe overall.
I'd say better than that. I think this year he's been a bit better than 10th overall. I mean, he's having an incredible year. I mean, I'd say obviously you'd want to put a guy like Lamar Allen, probably, even though they lose all the time to Burrow. But other than that, I mean, you're not seeing a lot of quarterbacks that are doing what Jared Goff is doing this year.
Right. I mean, from an emotional standpoint, he's definitely emotionally matured as a leader and grown and developed, and he wants to win a Super Bowl, Tad. And I mean, another thing I want to shout out to Jared Goff is with his leadership. He's also very humble, and he's very involved in the Detroit community. He gives back. He is actually a nominee for Walter Payton Man of the Year for this Lions team. So just who he is as a character and what he gives to the community. He's not only a leader on the field, he's also a leader off the field, sir.
Yeah, Jared Goff definitely a leader on the team in the community. He does a lot of good for this team and Detroit. I mean, he's given them a lot of hope. And I mean, obviously, it's not just him. I mean, they have one of the most well-rounded teams in the league, and they deserve a lot of credit. But he's given them a lot of hope.
Absolutely. Detroit wins 34-31 on Thursday Night Football. Did you have any other final thoughts or takes on this game, sir?
I did not.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow all season long. This is the Gridiron Glory Podcast.